Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive where we, take these really fascinating topics and try to break them down and find those, little nuggets of wisdom that we can apply in our own lives.
Yeah, I love that.
And today we are going to be delving into the work of Neville Goddard.
Oh, Neville, such a fascinating figure, and his ideas are so rooted in ancient wisdom, but they really resonate with the modern world, I think.
Definitely, he's gained like a huge following in recent years,
Yeah.
especially people interested in, the law of attraction and manifestation.
Yeah.
So for those listeners who might not be familiar, can you give us a little bit of background, like who was Neville Goddard?
Yeah, so Neville was a 20th century spiritual teacher and author, and he offered a really unique perspective on the Bible and more importantly on human potential.
Okay.
And he wasn't affiliated with any particular religion.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which I think makes his work all the more intriguing.
So it sounds like instead of like dogma or rituals,
Yeah.
he was more interested in the like psychology of the Bible.
Exactly. Yeah, he believed that the Bible was more of a guide to understanding the power of our own consciousness.
Okay.
And this is where things get really interesting because Neville believed that the power to shape our reality lies within us.
So not just interpreting scripture, but really like applying it to our own lives
Absolutely.
in a practical way.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we're specifically looking at his book At Your Command, which really gets into the nitty-gritty of how we can use our consciousness to create the life we desire.
Okay. At your
Yeah.
command, just the title alone is so powerful.
Right?
It suggests that we have way more control than we realize.
Exactly. And that's a core theme in Neville's work, is that we are not just passive recipients of fate,
Yeah.
but we are active creators of
Okay.
our reality.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I know Neville talked a lot about decreeing, which is
Mm.
something that I think a lot of people are curious about. So
Yeah.
can you break down for us what decreeing actually is?
Yeah, decreeing for Neville, it wasn't about empty words or chanting affirmations.
Right.
It's not wishing or hoping. Right. It's about shifting your consciousness to the point where you deeply know with absolute certainty that what you desire is already yours.
So it's more about like an inner knowing, an
Yes.
unshakable conviction rather than like any outward action.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about aligning your inner world with the reality you want to experience.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this ties into the title. At your command.
Yeah.
If you cultivate that level of inner knowing, then it's almost as if you're commanding your reality into being.
That's a great way to put it. And to understand this more deeply, we need to look at another key concept in Neville's work, the I am consciousness.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase is super important in Neville's teaching.
Yeah, it's fundamental.
Okay.
Neville believed that the two most powerful words in the universe are I am.
Wow.
He saw this phrase as a direct pointer to the God consciousness within each of us.
Wait, God consciousness within us, that sounds pretty radical.
It is, but Neville wasn't talking about God in a traditional religious sense. For him, God was synonymous with the very awareness of being the pure consciousness that exists before we define ourselves with limitations.
Okay, so when we say I am tired or I am successful, we're actually affirming those states
Yeah.
of being on a deeper level.
Exactly. You're aligning your consciousness with that reality.
Wow.
And this is where Neville introduced a fascinating analogy, the father and the son.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this father-son dynamic.
So Neville used these terms symbolically.
Okay.
The father represents that pure, unlimited I am consciousness,
Okay.
the source of all creation. The son, on the other hand, is the specific reality we are experiencing in this moment, shaped by our beliefs and thoughts.
So the son is like the current version of ourselves that we've created, but we have the potential to evolve beyond that.
Yes, and according to Neville, most of our suffering comes from identifying too strongly with a limited son, a self-concept defined by lack or fear.
Okay.
He believed that true transformation happens when we recognize the all-powerful Father within.
It's like we've forgotten our true nature, our inherent power as creators.
Exactly, and this is what he meant by being born again, not in a religious sense, but as a conscious shift in our self-concept.
Yeah.
Recognizing our unity with the Father, that limitless I am consciousness.
Okay. This is starting to click for me.
Good.
So to change our reality, we need to change our son, our self-concept, to align with that unlimited potential of the Father.
That's the core of it. And Neville believed that the Bible, particularly the stories of figures like Jesus and Moses, was actually a symbolic representation of this journey of consciousness.
Wow, that's a completely different way of looking at the Bible.
Yeah.
So how does this all connect back to decreeing?
Well, according to Neville, decreeing is the act of consciously claiming your desired reality as already true in the Father consciousness.
Okay.
It's about moving beyond the limitations of traditional prayer, where we often beg for what we lack.
So instead of pleading with an external God, we're aligning ourselves with the creative power within.
Exactly, and to illustrate this point, Neville used a rather unexpected analogy, the Virgin Mary.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. The Virgin Mary and manifestation, tell me more.
It might seem strange at first, but in Neville's interpretation, Mary represents pure awareness, the I am consciousness, that receptive state before a desire takes shape.
So not the historical figure, but a symbol.
Precisely the conception that Mary experiences is the formation of a desire, a specific state we want to manifest. And the husband is the I am consciousness, the creative power that brings that desire into being.
I see. So it's all very symbolic, but how does this metaphor actually help us manifest our desires?
Well, the instructions given to Mary are key here. First, she's told, tell no man. This emphasizes the importance of secrecy,
Okay.
of not sharing your desires prematurely with others who might doubt or discourage you.
That makes sense. Negative energy or skepticism could definitely dampen our faith and conviction.
Exactly. And the second instruction is to magnify the Lord.
Okay.
Remember, in this context, the Lord is your awareness of I am.
So magnifying the Lord means expanding our sense of self, our awareness of our own power.
Precisely. It's about cultivating that unshakable inner conviction that the desire is already ours in the Father consciousness.
Okay.
It's about raising our self-concept to align with the reality we want to experience.
This is really powerful stuff. So it's not just about visualizing what we want,
Yeah.
but really feeling it as true in our very being.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a state of wishing or hoping to a state of knowing.
Okay. I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Good.
The I am consciousness decreeing, aligning with the Father, and embodying our desires. This is definitely a lot to unpack, but in a good way.
Yeah.
It's challenging me to think differently about how I approach my own goals and aspirations.
And that's the beauty of Neville's work. It's incredibly thought-provoking and empowering.
This has been an amazing deep dive so far. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much more to explore. So we've talked about the power of the I am consciousness and how decreeing is about aligning ourselves with that inner power. But how do we actually put this into practice? What are some techniques for shifting our consciousness and embodying the reality we desire?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And, Neville provided some very specific tools for doing just that. One of the most powerful techniques is what he called living in the end.
Living in the end, that sounds almost counterintuitive.
It might seem that way, but it's really about using our imagination to create a vivid mental picture of our desired reality as if it's already happening.
So it's more than just daydreaming or visualizing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about engaging all your senses, feeling the emotions, and really embodying the experience as if it's happening in the present moment.
So if I desire a new job, I wouldn't just picture myself in the new office.
Mm.
I'd imagine the feeling of walking into that office, the excitement of the new challenges, the satisfaction of the work, maybe even the smell of fresh coffee in the break room.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more vividly you can create that sensory experience in your mind, the more you're impressing it upon your subconscious and aligning your energy with that reality.
This is starting to feel less like magic and more like a powerful psychological technique.
It is Neville was ahead of his time in understanding the power of the subconscious mind and how it shapes our reality. And living in the end is a way to consciously program our subconscious with the experiences we want to have.
So we're not just victims of circumstance, but active creators of our own lives.
Exactly. And the more we practice this technique, the more we start to feel the reality of our desires. And that's what ultimately draws them into our physical experience.
Okay, I'm getting we create the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and that's what draws it into our reality.
That's a great way to sum it up. Now, another powerful technique Neville talked about is revision.
Revision, what does that entail?
So revision is about going back and mentally changing past events to create a new emotional blueprint for the future.
Hold on, are we talking about literally changing the past as in time travel?
Not in the literal sense. No, it's about changing our perception of the past and the feelings associated with it if we can go back and reimagine a negative experience with a positive outcome. We're shifting our energy and creating a different reality for ourselves.
So if I had a public speaking event that went terribly wrong, I could revise it in my imagination and see myself delivering the speech with confidence and receiving a standing ovation.
Exactly. And by feeling the relief, joy, and confidence of that revised experience, you're actually changing your emotional state and aligning yourself with a more successful outcome in the future.
That's incredibly powerful. It's like giving ourselves a second chance, even if it's just in our minds.
That's exactly it. It's about taking control of our narrative and rewriting the script to empower ourselves. Instead of dwelling on past failures, we can use them as opportunities to create a more positive and empowering future.
I love this. It's like we're not just passive observers of our lives,
Hmm.
but active editors. We have the power to change the narrative, even retroactively.
Precisely. And this is where the power of consciousness really comes into play. We're not limited by the physical constraints of time and space in our minds. We can create any reality we desire.
This is mind-blowing. Okay, so we've got living in the end and revision. What other techniques did Neville offer for applying these principles?
One more technique, and it's a simple but profound one, is cultivating gratitude.
Gratitude, that seems pretty straightforward compared to mentally rewriting the past.
It might seem simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Neville believed that cultivating a deep sense of gratitude for what we already have is essential for attracting more good into our lives.
It's about shifting our focus from lack to abundance, right?
Exactly. When we're genuinely grateful for what we have, even the small things, we're sending out a powerful message to the universe that we're open to receiving even more blessings.
It's like we're creating a magnetic field for good things to come our way.
That's a great analogy. Gratitude is like a powerful magnet that attracts more things to be grateful for, and it also helps us to appreciate the present moment rather than always striving for something in the future.
I can see how practicing gratitude would be a great complement to techniques like living in the end and revision. It all works together to create a more positive and empowered mindset.
Exactly. These techniques are not mutually exclusive. They work synergistically to help us align our consciousness with the reality we desire.
Okay, so let me see if I've got this right. We start with a clear desire, then we tell no man to protect our energy and focus. Then we can use techniques like living in the end, revision, and gratitude to cultivate the inner knowing that our desire is already ours.
You've got it. And remember, it's not about faking it or pretending. It's about genuinely shifting our consciousness to align with our desires.
This is so fascinating.
Okay.
I'm starting to see how powerful this concept of decreeing can be. When combined with these practical techniques, it's like we're unlocking a whole new level of potential within ourselves.
And that's what Neville was all about, empowering people to realize their true potential as creators of their reality. He believed that the power to change our lives lies within each and every one of us.
This is a lot to take in,
Eh.
but in the best way possible. It's both inspiring and challenging. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I want to make sure our listeners can walk away with some practical takeaways. What's one key piece of advice based on Neville's teachings that someone can start applying in their own life today?
That's a great question. I'd say the most important thing is to start paying attention to your I am statements throughout the day.
You mean the things we say after I am?
Exactly. Become aware of the qualities and states of being you're unconsciously affirming. Are you saying, I am tired, I am stressed, or I am unlucky?
Ouch. I've definitely been guilty of those.
We all have. But the good news is that once you become aware of these negative I am statements, you can start to consciously replace them with more positive ones.
Instead of I am broke, we could say I am abundant, even if our bank account doesn't reflect that yet.
Exactly. It's about planting those seeds in your subconscious mind and then nurturing them with faith and conviction. Remember, your thoughts and words have power, so choose them wisely.
This is so powerful.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how just changing our language can have a profound impact on our reality.
It can, and it all goes back to Neville's core message. You have the power to shape your reality by changing your consciousness.
And that power lies within each and every one of us. It's not about seeking some external force or deity, but about recognizing the divine power within ourselves.
Exactly. We are all creators, whether we realize it or not. And the more we understand and apply these principles, the more we can consciously create the life we desire.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. Neville Goddard's teachings are both profound and practical. They challenge us to think differently about the world and our place in it.
He truly was ahead of his time. His ideas about consciousness and the power of the mind are more relevant now than ever, especially in a world where we're constantly bombarded with information and external influences.
I couldn't agree more. Wow, this has been an incredible journey so far, exploring Neville's ideas about consciousness and decreeing and the power within. I'm feeling so inspired and empowered by his teachings.
Me too. It's amazing how these concepts, even though they're rooted in this ancient wisdom, They feel so relevant and applicable to our lives today.
Absolutely. And speaking of relevance, I think a lot of our listeners are probably wondering how to integrate these principles into their daily lives. What are some practical steps that they can take to start applying Neville's teachings?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are so many ways that we can bring these ideas into our everyday experience. One of the simplest yet most effective practices is to start each day with a conscious affirmation of your desired reality.
So like a morning ritual where you kind of declare your intentions for the day.
Exactly. It could be something as simple as saying, I am healthy, I am prosperous, I am loved, or any other qualities or experiences you wish to manifest.
Okay.
The key is to say it with conviction, feeling the truth of it in your heart.
So it's not just about repeating the words, but really embodying the feeling of the affirmation.
Precisely, it's about aligning your energy with your desires and setting the tone for the day ahead.
That's a great tip.
Right.
I think a lot of people could benefit from starting their day with that kind of intentional focus.
Absolutely. Another practice Neville recommended is to regularly engage in what he called inner conversations.
Inner conversations, what does that mean exactly?
So it's about having these imaginary dialogues with people or situations in a way that supports your desired outcome.
So like a mental rehearsal for an important conversation or event.
Yes, let's say you're anticipating a challenging conversation with a colleague.
Yeah.
You can have an inner conversation beforehand, playing out the scenario in your mind in a way that feels empowering and leads to a positive resolution.
It's interesting. It's like pre-paving the way for a more favorable outcome by visualizing it in advance.
Exactly. And by engaging your emotions in that visualization, you're not just thinking about it, you're feeling it, which makes it all the more powerful.
Okay, I'm seeing how this connects to the idea of living, in the end, creating the feeling of the wish fulfilled. These practices all seem to reinforce each other.
They do. It's all about training your mind to focus on the reality you want to experience rather than dwelling on what you don't want. And this brings us back to another crucial point. Neville emphasized the importance of controlling your thoughts and reactions.
Yeah, that's something we've all struggled with at some point, especially in those really challenging situations.
It's a constant practice, but the more we can become aware of our thoughts and choose to focus on the positive, the more we're shaping our reality in a conscious way. Neville often said, change your thinking, change your life.
That's such a powerful statement. It really puts the responsibility back on us, doesn't it?
It does, but it's also incredibly empowering because it means that we're not at the mercy of external circumstances. We have the power to choose our thoughts, and our thoughts create our reality.
Okay, so we've talked about starting the day with affirmations, engaging in inner conversations, and controlling our thoughts. Are there any other practices that our listeners can implement to really bring Neville's teachings to life?
One more practice that I find incredibly helpful is to cultivate a sense of wonder and curiosity about life. Neville often encouraged his students to approach life as an adventure, a grand experiment in consciousness.
So instead of getting bogged down by the mundane or the everyday,
Yeah,
we can kind of look for the magic in those moments.
exactly. It's about seeing the world with fresh eyes, appreciating the beauty around us, and embracing the unknown with a sense of excitement rather than fear.
I love that it's like shifting from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance, recognizing that there's always something new to discover and experience.
Exactly. And that sense of wonder and curiosity can fuel our creativity and open us up to new possibilities we might have never imagined.
This has been such an insightful and inspiring deep dive. Neville Goddard's teachings offer such a profound perspective on the power of consciousness and how we can use it to create the life we desire. I'm walking away with a renewed sense of hope and possibility.
Me too. And I hope our listeners are feeling it as well. Remember, the journey of self-discovery and transformation is ongoing, and Neville's work provides a wealth of guidance and inspiration along the way.
Well said. And to our listeners who are eager to learn more, this is just the first in our series exploring the transformative teachings of Neville Goddard.
That's right.
We'll be diving deeper into his work in future episodes, uncovering more powerful techniques and insights to help you unlock your full potential as a conscious creator.
Until then, remember, you are powerful beyond measure. Embrace the power of your consciousness and start creating the life of your dreams.